Hey mamas! Today we are going to be doing something from my old blog. I have a cloth diaper sewing blog, and this is not a cloth diaper, it is mama cloth or menstrual pads, cloth menstrual pads. They're washable, reusable, super easy to make. They don't have to be pretty because you're the only one that's going to see them. So I've got my basic template from my website, and I will link the download or my old blog in the description. And what we have here is some athletic wicking jersey, but you can use all absorbent fabrics. You could use flannel, you could use Alova suede cloth, you could use really anything. You don't even need to use a wicking one, but I like using the Stay Dry Wicking Peak. However, it's harder to sew with, and since I'm not super careful, and you know, fastest, easiest is best, my pads don't always look super pretty. But it doesn't matter, because who sees them but you? This is what they end up looking like when they're done. They snap closed, so you can store them. This is one that I just did. It's super ugly and wrinkled and not sewn flat, but it doesn't matter because, again, it doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be functional. Snaps on. This is a panty liner. This is a small one, but you can make them any size, any absorbency. You can make them as bladder protection with more absorbent fabrics. You can make them for postpartum. Lots of options. Anyway, cute package. Shove it in your purse. Let's get started. So, I have my layers of absorbency. Here I have a layer of cotton microterry, and a layer of bamboo fleece. You could do 100% cotton sweatshirt fleece. You can do layers of jersey. You could do upcycled old fabrics. You can cut up an old blanket or an old sweatshirt or an old t-shirt. So many options. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be pretty. Nobody's going to see it except for you. Plus, that's inside. So for absorbent fabrics, you can cut up old pre-folds. You can cut up old diapers. It doesn't matter. Anything that's absorbent and washable. It doesn't even matter if it's stained. It's going to be hidden. And then your outer fabric, again, can be a lot of options. You can use pull or fleece for the backing. You can even, just use woven if you don't have, if it's just for a panty liner and doesn't need to be waterproof. I'm using old Babyville pull from Joann. I just traced out my pattern and shaped it a little bit more to how I like it. So we're going to start with just the inner and set the outer aside. We're just going to sew with a fairly large stitch just to hold it all together with a straight stitch. Go slow if you're using stretchy fabrics. You can use a walking foot if you want. I haven't found that it helps that much. You just start, set decently in. You don't need to be right on the edge. This is just to hold it down. More of like a quilting. And just go. Why don't we try something creative? That might be fun. So let's take out our pin. I've actually never done this before. I've done channels before, but I've never done an S-curve. So why don't we try to do some impromptu artwork? That might be fun. Because who cares? Nobody's going to see it. You can play. You can work on your stitch accuracy. So let's get my needle lined up. And I'm just going to go through the middle here. Quilting is always fun, and freeform quilting is fun too. You don't have to be making quilts to quilt. You can quilt anything. I feel so creative. Okay. That was enough play, huh? Let's see what that looks like. It's probably really weird. We'll find out. So, this is what the inside looks like. Just got a little design there. And then the pad ends up with a nice little pattern. It's kind of cute. You can make something that's unique to you. If you have multiple members of your household and you want to keep them, you know, easy to distinguish, you could do different patterns for different members of your household. If you want to sell them, you could have a brand logo or something. Gosh, so many ideas. I've never even tried doing that before, but it seems like a fun thing, huh? Why not? So at this point, before I sew it to the other piece, you probably want to trim anything that looks like it sticks out a little too close to the edge, like right there. You can also cut in your curve a little bit. You don't want to lose too much fabric because you don't want to lose absorbency. But depending on who it's for or what type of underwear you wear, you might want it to be trimmer. Never be afraid to customize patterns that you find. If a pattern doesn't work, rather than looking for a new pattern, think about, what can I do to make it work? Does it just not fit in this one place? Is it too tight? Is it too loose? It's not hard to just go in and modify and play around. Use some old clothes you don't like anymore to play with so you don't have to buy new fabric. You can't be afraid to play. Sewing should be fun. Don't stress out if you mess up. It's always good to practice on fabrics that you don't care about first. Don't go straight into your nice fabric. There, that's really pretty. So now you end up with a nice trim, more contoured piece. It looks so pretty. Who knew? Okay, so now you take this and you face your outer layers toward each other. Just set them inside each other. And this part's going to be a little stretchy, so you're going to want to be a little careful when you go really slow. I've got some clips here that my friend Tracy gave me. I met her teaching her how to sew cloth diapers for her grandkids. I think my favorite students are grandparents. They're always so excited to learn new stuff. Plus, you know, they like to dote on their grandkids. Okay, let's get started again. Go to large stitch, probably, pretty large stitch. We're going to start on one side because my turning hole is going to be here on the side. So you want to make sure that you make it wide enough that, you know, you'll be able to reach your hand through. If you're using non-stretchy fabrics, make it bigger. Maybe do it along a bigger side, like on the end here or something. But if you're using stretchy fabrics, you know, it's just to get 2 fingers through is all you really need to turn. So I'm going to do it here. And so pretty close to the edge. Make sure you have a sharp needle. I started sewing that other one with a dull needle and that didn't go well. You want to be using 100% polyester thread to reduce wicking. I didn't think about that to say that first, but with diaper sewing in general and anything that you need to have water proofing or resistance, you want to make sure to reduce wicking, and cotton thread will wick. Okay, so now before we turn it, we go and trim it up really close to your sewn edge here. You're just going to go in and don't cut into your sewn edge, but you want to go pretty close. You can also make smaller, lower absorbency, higher absorbency, longer, depending on your need, depending on your size, wider, narrower. It's The great thing is you could totally customize something like this. You're not limited. Find out what works for you and just change your pattern up a little bit. And they're so much more comfortable than the paper kind. So much more. And they're easy to wash. Just spray with a little, I've got a sprayer of peroxide. And I just spray with a little bit of peroxide before I put them into the laundry, and they come really clean, especially with the wicking outside. You can't tell if the inside is stained anyway. Every once in a while you can bleach them a little bit. Okay. So now it's trimmed. Anywhere that you see the inner fabric's getting too close to the edge too, you can trim. Just a little bit though. You want to keep some edge on that, but not too much. There, it's a nice amount. That looks great. And a little more on that inner. Okay. So now it's time to turn it. You've got your inside out pad. We just turn it, make it the right way. And then we'll do some top stitching to close up the hole and to make it lay flat. You get your side here, and you just fold it in. Just a little bit, not too much. And then you can pin it or clip it. Don't put pins through the middle, because that's where the absorbency is, but you can do it anywhere else on it. Okay, and at this point you've got a couple options. You could go and sew around the pad first, or you can go and do your top stitching first. I tend to do my top stitching first, and so that I close up the hole and don't have to worry about having the clips on for very long. I don't really even clip it, I just go straight in. But at this point you can see the shape of it. It's pretty simple. Then we'll add snaps when we're done, or you can use Velcro. So again, large set straight stitch between 3 and 4. You start at your closing hole, your turning hole. So close to the edge, go slow. It is a stretchy fabric. I actually have found that walking foot is not better for the top stitching part. You want to only use the regular feet. You want to have some pressure on it. And then here at the end, go back and forth over it. There you go. And also your snaps going in will help hold it. It shouldn't run. There's very little chance of it running because where the snaps go through. Trim off your threads. Okay, so now you've got your top stitching done. And the last thing we're going to do is sew around the edge of the pad itself, just outside of it, to hold it flat. And it doesn't have to be pretty. Like mine's not even, it doesn't have to be pretty. I usually start at one side or the other. You can also do a tight zigzag if you like how that looks. I mean, it really doesn't matter. I guess if you want it to lay flatter, you probably would do a zigzag. Let's do that. I did the last one with the zigzag, but let's go to a mid-width zigzag, mid-size. I think we're at about like that's good. Let's see how that looks, huh? You can do any type of stitch you want. It's just to make it lay flat, and it's only on the very outside edge so that it isn't right in the middle where you're going to have the most wicking, because this is going all the way through the pull. So. And there's what it looks like on the back. You can see the shape of it. Because I used white thread so you can see it easily. And there it is on the front. You could use one color for your bobbin and one color for your top if you want it to be white on the inside and like whatever matching your pull on the outside, or you can just use all white everything. Or you can just have the stitch line showing. It doesn't matter. And then we're just going to add in the snaps. I have my cam snap pliers and my awl, and I'll just place 2 snaps on both sides. Okay, so I've got my cam snaps here. I like mixing up the colors to match it, but you can just use white or black or any color you want. So what I do is you see how they're gonna fit, which one you want on the top, which one you want on the bottom. I think this one's better because of the little bit of a flaw there on my sewing. So put that one on the bottom. And then we take our awl. You just poke it through near the edge. You want to keep it fairly close to the edge, but enough where the snap is inset. You don't want to do it too far in or it's hard to unsnap and snap. That little bit of thickness at the edge gives it some rigidity. Then you put your cap through. Same on the other side. About the same distance. If you're doing Velcro, you can just sew it right on. Velcro will snag things in the laundry though, so you do want to be careful of that. And then I take my white studs for the inside. You just press it. I always go a couple times. I'm not one of those fancy people that actually has a snap press. I only have snap pliers. I don't do enough snap application to make it worthwhile. You can use other kinds of snaps too. If you want to do sew-on snaps, you can do that. Just keep in mind that a lot of washing and drying is more likely to damage those and make them rust. And if these, after washing and drying, if you use high heat, start to have problems holding, you can just go and press them again. You can use the pliers on them again and it should flatten them back out again. I have some that are pretty old that I had to do that too. Then what I do for the top is I find a spot where it's going to match up. Like that. And I do the same thing. When you have one done, you want to stretch it across to make sure it's even, and then feel for the middle of that hole, and then use that for placement. So once you have one done, then you could do the others. You know, you put it right in the middle of the hole there. And then they'll line up. And they won't stretch funny. You could also measure, like, distance between holes, but again, I don't, least possible effort. I don't put extra planning or effort into most things I do. You could also make, like, a separate little pouch for them, or, like, use a little makeup bag or something, but I like using the snaps and folding them back in on themselves. So there it is, how it would hook onto your panties. Move this out of the way. Like that. There's the inside. You can see the quilting. And then if you want to fold it up for transport, or to close it up when you want to put it back in your bag afterwards, to keep any messes contained, you just fold it over itself. And then fold that part over itself. snap it in. And you get a nice little self-contained envelope. You get your panty liner and your light pad. You can do heavier pads, you can do bladder pads. If you make your wings a little bit longer for the bulkier pads. And that's how you make sure that it will close back up again. There you go.